Hey gang, I got a great hiatal hernia question today. And a hiatal hernia is kind of where your stomach gets pulled up into the diaphragm a little bit. And that LES valve or lower esophageal sphincter can get a little jacked up and it might not close correctly. And it can create a lot of other discomfort as well. So with today's question, we're going to dig into the connection between gastritis and hiatal hernia. Here we go.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
So it was over on our question for how to fix a lax LES that Pink Ocean something or other asked, can chronic gastritis cause a hiatal hernia? I can't seem to get my hiatal down. And the video they were watching about fixing a lax LES gives me a clue that maybe this person's LES is not closing correctly, and it's probably because of a hiatal hernia. And this is part of what made me lose my voice for 8 years. I had a hiatal hernia that was creating some reflux trouble among some other issues that I had going on. But when we're looking at an LES valve closing correctly, sometimes a hiatal hernia is involved in that. There are other issues that can create this, and we'll put the link to that video in the description below for the how to fix a lax LES if you want to look into that a little bit. But when we're looking at gastritis causing a hiatal hernia, my viewpoint is that gastritis is basically inflammation in the stomach. And a person can have inflammation in the stomach, or it can be more severe to where they can have like an ulcer in their stomach. And this gastritis is not usually going to create a hiatal hernia. The inflammation alone, in my opinion, is not going to be what actually causes a hiatal hernia. But the underlying cause of gastritis does have the ability to either create or magnify a hiatal hernia, or maybe restrict the body's ability from really correcting or repairing and healing that torn tissue that's allowing the stomach to come up into the diaphragm a little bit. So if you're not sure how a hiatal hernia works and you think this could be a problem for you, we'll put a link in the description below this video for our video on understanding a hiatal hernia. And you can dig into that a little bit, and that might be really helpful to kind of get some visuals of what this hernia is looking like and how it works. But when we're looking at a hernia, a lot of times this can be caused by excess pressure in the stomach. And that pressure is pushing the stomach and kind of forcing it up. And over time, this pressure can stretch that connection where the stomach is going up through that diaphragm. It can kind of stretch that hole and then create a tear. And then now a person has a hiatal hernia. But when we're looking at gastritis, our understanding now is that this is most commonly, not always, but most commonly caused by some type of overgrowth or infection in the stomach. Often it's H. pylori, but there can be other issues that are creating this. And this infection is what's creating all of this inflammation. So another thing that we need to understand about an overgrowth in the stomach is that this bacteria is going to put out like waste product. And they're going to put out more gases and create more gases. And those gases is often what's going to create the pressure and have the ability to push things back up. So a hiatal hernia can come from an injury or just a damage, or maybe working out the wrong way, and that, diaphragm, the stomach getting pulled up a little bit from stress of being kind of all stressed up and in that fight or flight mode all the time. But a lot of times it just has to do with gases pushing things back up. So this I view as a possible cause of a hiatal hernia is just the underlying infection that is also creating the gastritis. So I don't view the gastritis really doing it, but it does make sense to see those two things together. And another thing that I talk about in that video about the hiatal hernia is that a lot of times it's hard to really repair that because the body doesn't have the building blocks it needs to repair tissues that have been damaged. The body uses amino acids as those main building blocks. There's a lot of other nutrients that are important too, but amino acids are crucial. And a lot of times when there are digestive malfunctions, a person doesn't have the ability to break proteins down into amino acids. Now the body doesn't have those building blocks or building blocks to repair tissues, and that may have the ability to make that diaphragm tissue more weak and not as strong, and a little bit easier of the ability to kind of create a tear and create that hiatal hernia. Without those amino acids, it could also be difficult for the body to repair those tissues and improve a hiatal hernia. There's a lot of other steps that are usually needed to kind of correct that hiatal hernia and kind of bring it down, but the body really needs nutrients to repair those tissues to kind of get that to end up holding it in place and correct the hiatal hernia over the long haul. A lot of people are going to tell you, hiatal hernia can't be repaired, but they're dealing with a body that is not repairing things correctly because it doesn't have the tools it needs. So think about this. We need to be able to acidify our food enough to break protein down into those amino acids. We need stomach acid to be able to do that. But it's very common for someone not to have enough stomach acid for a wide variety of reasons. And usually that's how these infections come in. They come in because the stomach acid is the barrier to the whole digestive tract. When bacteria and other varmints come in on the food that we're eating, they're supposed to die in an acid bath. But when they don't have enough stomach acid, now they can set up camp and they can have a keg party and raise their kids. And now we have a significant overgrowth, significant enough to create this inflammation or gastritis issue. Also significant enough to create a lot more gases, creating a lot more pressure that can push that stomach up. So you can see it makes sense to see these issues together, that this overgrowth issue and this inability to break down protein correctly has the ability to create a hiatal hernia, but also has the ability to make it very difficult for the body to repair those tissues. So we like to see people improve their ability to break down protein correctly by acidifying the stomach, but if someone has gastritis, they can't do that because by adding more acid in there, you're just going to create a lot more discomfort. So a person might need to take steps to reduce that overgrowth, take some steps to improve that gastritis. In the description below, we'll put a link on our video for gastritis, a different viewpoint. And we talk about some tools in that video, like cabbage juice, zinc carnosine is often used to help improve gastritis as well. So some steps might need to be taken to reduce an overgrowth and to allow that inflammation to heal a little bit before someone has the ability to start acidifying their stomach correctly. So there might be some steps that a person needs to go through. You might not be able to get all of your answers here because the steps are going to vary from person to person depending on what's creating these issues. So you're probably going to have some homework to do. So when it comes time to start acidifying that stomach or correcting other digestive malfunctions, we'll put a link in the description below for our totally free digestion course, and that can kind of walk you through that process, and that course is totally free. And the link to that gastritis video will be down there now, but for right now, if you want to understand this hiatal hernia a little bit more and steps to correct it, you can jump over and check out our video on understanding a hiatal hernia or our video on how to fix a hiatal hernia. I can't wait to hear about your results.